I was tricked by my best friend into getting drunk at her house. When I woke up, I saw her dad sleeping next to me. She cried and begged me to give her a brother, otherwise, she'd be beaten to death. They spread my indecent photos, making me a rat in the gutter, shunned by everyone. They thought that, after pushing me to the edge, I would be under their control. But I tied them up and used acid to erode them bit by bit. Then, when I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day I was supposed to go to her house. Vivian, today is my birthday. You're coming to my place to celebrate, right? Coco asked expectantly, with a confident smile on her face. She had been telling me for days that she wanted to celebrate this year's birthday at home, just the two of us. I'm naturally a loner and don't have many friends. Coco is the opposite, always getting along with everyone and having lots of friends. Hearing her say she'd only celebrate with me in my past life made me feel special. So I agreed without thinking. In fact, I was special enough for her to throw me onto her dad's bed, begging me to give her a brother. Remembering those unbearable memories, I clenched my fists, so tight, my nails dug into my palms. But with a calm face, I smiled gently, sure. Hearing my agreement, Coco patted my shoulder in satisfaction, and said warmly, see you then. You must come. As she walked away, I looked down at my hand, watching the blood seep out from my palm. My mind was a whirl of thoughts, finally calming down. In my past life, I took revenge by using acid to erode Coco and her dad's skin inch by inch, making them suffer until their final moments. After dealing with those disgusting beings, I ended my own life. They had already ruined my life. I didn't want to live, but I wasn't coward enough to go without seeing them suffer first. So this time, how should I repay them? At 8 p.m., I knocked on Coco's door right on time. Coco opened the door with a cheerful stride, her face lighting up when she saw me. She pulled me inside. You finally came. I've been waiting for so long. While talking, Coco's dad also came out from his room. Dad, this is my best friend Vivian. Isn't she pretty? Coco eagerly said to her dad. Her dad's eyes landed on my face, scrutinizing me with a barely hidden dark look. Indeed, very pretty. Bob stared at me, the smile on his face unclear in its intent. Coco, you better treat your friend well, understand? Coco blinked her eyes. Got it, Dad. Listening to their conversation, I fought the urge to kill them right away. Letting them die too easily would be too kind. Vivian, I got my dad's special liquor. We won't go home until we're drunk tonight. Bob showed a helpless smile and said with feigned anger, you are such a kid. Forget it, it's your birthday, you call the shots, drink as much as you want. Then he looked at me. Vivian, don't feel restrained. Don't go home tonight. Stay here. Bob quickly poured us drinks. Coco, didn't I buy a cake? Let's eat some first, or it will go to waste, I reminded, seeing the father-daughter duo eager to drink. Coco patted her head. Look at me. I was so happy I forgot. You sit, I'll get it. Bob stopped Coco with a gentle smile. Stay with Vivian, I'll get it. After Bob went into the kitchen, I suggested Coco go help her dad to be quicker. When both of them were in the kitchen, I took out a prepared bottle and poured it into their glasses. After eating the cake, Bob downed his drink first and then looked at me encouragingly. I pretended not to know how to drink, refusing their offers. Bob's persuasion didn't work, so he signaled to Coco. Immediately, Coco started persuading. Vivian, it's my birthday today. Can't you have a little, just to celebrate? I'm not good at drinking either, so I'll finish my glass if you take a sip, okay? If you refuse again, you're not treating me as a friend. Hearing this, I reluctantly nodded. Then, I watched her drink down the spiked liquor in one gulp. What I gave them was strong stuff in a large amount, enough to knock out a bull. After drinking, the father and daughter began to persuade me, but as they did, they gradually became confused. Watching their dazed states, my smile grew genuine. In no time, they lost their minds completely, their bodies overwhelmed by the drug, turning the dining room into a scene of dismal passion. Unable to bear watching such a disgusting sight, I took out my phone and placed it on the table to record. Then, I carefully installed the miniature cameras I brought along in hidden spots around the living room and bedroom. I knew Coco was not Bob's biological daughter. She was adopted, and Bob, with his beastly nature, had sinister intentions toward the young and pretty Coco. After all, she wasn't his blood, and he raised her. She should repay him, right? So, why let an outsider benefit? Let her body repay him with a big fat boy. Coco, noticing Bob's thoughts, instead of figuring out how to save herself, came up with a more sinister plan. She chose to push me into the pit. Those who harm others will eventually harm themselves. In my past life, I made sure they suffered a miserable death. In this life, I'll return the favor in kind. Looking at the installed cameras, I smirked, knowing that with this first time, more will follow. Then, these cameras will come in handy. After doing all that, Coco and her dad were exhausted and passed out, tightly hugging each other. I walked over, grabbed my phone, and left their house calmly. The next day, I woke up naturally and called Coco, but she didn't answer. I wasn't surprised. They were completely drained last night. They were probably still asleep, holding each other. So, I sent a message. Coco, I'm sorry. I had an urgent matter last night, and had to leave early. You and your dad were both drunk when I left. So you might have forgotten I said goodbye. Let me treat you to something nice today, as an apology. After sending the message, I tossed my phone aside and focused on my work. In the afternoon, my phone rang. I glanced at it. It was a call from Coco. Vivian, when did you leave yesterday? Coco's voice was hoarse and dry, with a hint of aggression. After you drank. Seriously, you know you can't handle alcohol, but still pushed yourself. Just one drink and you were out. I wanted to help you to your room, but your dad insisted he wanted to drink more with you and told me not to interfere. So, I had to respect his wishes. Coco listened quietly, breathing heavily and rapidly. I could tell she was in a terrible mood. I chuckled silently and continued. Coco, are you okay? You sound off. Did you drink too much last night? When I left, I saw your dad forcing you to drink. I even told him you should rest, but he rudely told me to leave. You're not mad at me, are you? I subtly misled her, and Coco took the bait. Are you saying my dad was intentionally making me drink last night? I think so. He didn't seem to want me to stay at your house too long. Coco, do you think your dad doesn't like me? Coco didn't answer and mumbled to herself. So it was him. I knew she now believed Bob had orchestrated everything and agreed to let me stay over just to make her less vigilant. In fact, Bob's real target was her all along. This mess was enough to plunge Coco into despair. She wasn't thinking clearly, and what I said made sense. Bob always had ulterior motives for her. So maybe seizing the opportunity wasn't far-fetched. Did you see anything else when you left? Coco asked, filled with hatred. When I mentioned I had urgent work, your dad kept urging me to leave. I left seeing him make you drink. Is that all? What else could I have seen? I feigned confusion. Coco's breathing hitched before she brushed me off, saying, nothing, I gotta go. After hanging up, I made myself some tea and lounged on the sofa, listening to music, feeling pretty good. Coco, the game has officially begun. Just as I expected, after crossing the line once, Bob became unrestrained. Watching the surveillance, I saw Bob violently subdue Coco, assertively taking her. Coco continually cried and begged for mercy, but she forgot that showing weakness only fueled Bob's animalistic behavior. The scenes on the surveillance got increasingly outrageous, and I couldn't watch anymore. By then, Coco believed everything had been Bob's plan. She loathed Bob, but dreaded the fact that they had been intimate. She feared Bob would expose it, so she endured his abuse. Ironically, Coco had a great boyfriend. His name was Steven, from a wealthy family with high-profile parents. To snag such an excellent boyfriend, Coco spared no effort. She hoped to marry into a wealthy family and escape her predatory foster father. Unexpectedly, before marrying into wealth, her purity was destroyed by her father. This scandalous secret paralyzed her with fear. Any hint of it, and she'd be ruined. Forget marrying into wealth. She couldn't even face the world. Bob obviously knew about the drugged wine from that night, but he thought Coco had spiked it to ensure everything went smoothly. He didn't expect it to work against her. Regardless, Coco avoided provoking Bob, fearing he'd sabotage her relationship with Steven. She never mentioned the forced drinking again. Bob didn't care about the backstory. He just wanted to sleep with her. He even shamelessly declared in Coco's bed, "Sweetie, be good and Daddy will love you. I'll support you and Steven, but you have to bear me a son first, maybe a few. Let Steven raise our kids, and eventually let my son inherit his fortune." How does that sound? Coco clung to the blanket, crying without making a sound. I found it amusing. I had to save this footage for later, to play it in front of Steven at the right moment. I couldn't wait to see the explosion. The next time I saw Coco, she didn't look good. She was always vibrant no matter what, but now she had a gloomy aura about her. Coco, have you been sick these past few days? You haven't shown up, and you look unwell. I pretended to be concerned. Coco glanced at me, her eyes briefly flashing with cold hatred, then lowered her head, mumbling, "I had a cold." She then said to me, "Vivian, you said you'd make it up to me. Does that still count?" I arched an eyebrow, inwardly sneering, but outwardly replied seriously, "Of course, I always keep my word, but how do you want me to make it up to you?" Seeing me agree, Coco blurted out without hesitation, "Then come to my place tonight. I've been feeling down and need someone to talk to." I showed a troubled expression. "Your place? Won't your dad be upset? He's on a business trip. He won't be home for days. Just come over and keep me company. Anyway, you're a loner too." I was indeed all alone, no parents, no relatives. So Coco took advantage of me without hesitation. After all, besides me, no one would stand up for me. Who said being an orphan means you should be bullied? I hid my emotions and nodded. "All right, I'll come over tonight." At night, I arrived as promised, but I brought 2 surprise guests, Stephen and Anna. Stephen is Coco's boyfriend, and Anna, Stephen's childhood friend, is his parents' pick for the ideal daughter-in-law. "Vivian, why'd you bring them?" Coco pulled me aside while Stephen and Anna weren't looking, her tone unfriendly. I glanced at Stephen and Anna, then whispered back, "Coco, don't be mad. I just happened to bump into them." When Stephen heard I was coming to see you, he insisted on joining. I initially didn't want to agree, but Anna was dragging Stephen to a movie. If I said no, wouldn't that be giving Anna what she wants? "I got mad on your behalf." Hearing this, Coco's face darkened like a pot's bottom, and she glared venomously at the laughing Anna. "That bitch, always against me. Why doesn't she just die?" She spat out the curse, but quickly recovered, frowning as she apologized. "Sorry, I've been in a bad mood. I didn't mean it." I sympathetically patted her arm. "Sigh, it's tough for you. Clearly in love with Stephen, but Anna keeps meddling. Anyone would be mad." I added meaningfully, "Without her, you might have already married Stephen, but it seems like she's deliberately giving you trouble. If only there was a way to make her back off." Coco looked thoughtfully at Anna. I continued to stoke the fire. "Coco, honestly, you and Stephen are perfect together, but you can't let your guard down. Never give anyone an opportunity." Coco stayed silent, head down as she murmured, "No one can take what's mine." Seeing this, I smiled knowingly and stopped bothering Coco, who seemed lost in thought. Looking at Anna, she was intentionally getting close to Stephen, chatting and laughing. Occasionally, she threw Coco a provocative look. She seemed pleased but didn't know the nightmare awaiting her. Coco, though harmed, still remembered me and foolishly wanted to drag me to her dad's bed to free herself. So, tonight, she planned to drug me. As for Bob, he wasn't on a trip, but had gone out to cooperate with Coco. He'd return once the drugging succeeded. For Bob, young and beautiful girls were always welcome. He enjoyed Coco's plans since he didn't have to lift a finger. His dutiful daughter would deliver the goods. But with Anna's appearance, Coco quickly changed plans. Drugging Anna achieved more. It diverted Bob's attention, and gave Coco leverage over Anna. Then, how could Anna dream of stealing her man? With the plan set, Coco made an excuse for Stephen and me to go buy something. Anna, quick-witted, knew Coco wanted to get rid of us, but she underestimated Coco's malice, thinking Coco just wanted a confrontation. So she nonchalantly let Stephen go. Rich girl's arrogance made her look down on Coco, maybe even wanting to humiliate her, mocking Coco while drinking heavily. Soon, Coco called Stephen, saying her dad was back and Anna was leaving, so we should just go home. Stephen didn't think much of it. In his eyes, Coco was a pure flower. Everything she said was gospel. Back home, I eagerly checked the surveillance. Sure enough, an incoherent Anna had fallen into Bob's hands. I'll admit I'm ruthless, but I'm not a maniac out for petty revenge. I brought Anna into this because she deserved it. As a rich girl, she was gracious and elegant in front of elders, but privately she was arrogant and reckless. In high school, just because others said I was prettier, she bullied me. Those days were dark and unforgettable. I never forgot about revenge, but I didn't get the chance last time. This lifetime, with plenty of time, I wouldn't spare anyone. When Anna woke, she almost went mad, screaming and nearly wrecking Coco's place. Finally, Bob slapped her unconscious. Coco then showed her the video she had taken. Didn't expect the rich princess to be such a slut, even going after my dad. Imagine what people would think if they saw your dirty acts. Anna broke down, screaming, "Coco, how dare you? I won't let you get away with this. You'll regret it." Coco sneered, full of sarcasm, "I'm harming you. It's clearly you who tried to seduce my dad. If I release this video, who's gonna care about whether you're framed or not? Feel free to go to the cops. The moment you do, I'll release the video." The princess, who's usually all high and mighty, acting so wild in bed, way better than a cheap porno. "Anna, you'll definitely become famous overnight." Anna was stunned. Despite her usual arrogance, this was about her reputation. Even if she was framed by Coco, once this video was out, her life would be completely ruined. Coco, feeling triumphant and vengeful, slapped Anna twice, You didn't see this coming when you were against me all the time, did you? Still trying to take Steven from me. You think you deserve him. From now on, you'd better behave like a dog and listen to me, or your reputation will be in tatters. After that, Anna was depressed for a long time and stopped bothering Steven. But on Steven's mom's birthday, their family hosted an extravagant gathering. Steven's mom wanted to take this opportunity to officially introduce Anna as Steven's girlfriend. All she wanted was to break up Steven and Coco for good. However, Steven was devoted to Coco, so he flat out refused. His love-struck and rebellious mindset even made him consider cutting ties with his family for Coco. But Coco, showing immense understanding, persuaded Steven to go along with his family's plan to avoid making a spectacle. Moved by her actions, Steven cherished her even more, thanking his lucky stars for finding such a kind and virtuous girlfriend. Little did he know, this was all part of Coco's scheme. Anna, now threatened by the video, was completely under Coco's thumb. Sure enough, the next day, Steven's mom introduced Anna in front of all the guests with a loving smile. Unexpectedly, the first to object wasn't Steven, but Anna. Auntie, you must have misunderstood. I only see Steven as a brother. With those words, Anna ran out, eyes red. Guests exchanged bewildered looks, and Steven's parents were flushed with embarrassment. They were humiliated, making a fool of themselves on such an important day, handing their family's drama over for public ridicule. Steven's parents were furious, thinking Anna had deliberately embarrassed them in front of everyone. After all, announcing Anna as Steven's girlfriend at the party was Anna's own idea. They didn't expect her to turn and humiliate them like this. This incident even strained the relations between both families. Steven was also baffled. He couldn't understand why Anna, who clung to him so desperately, suddenly turned on him, embarrassing his parents. He didn't care why Anna did this. He was just ecstatic to celebrate it with Coco, and even took the opportunity to gloat at his parents. After this blunder, Steven's parents became less opposed to his relationship with Coco. They seemed to be warming up to the idea. It was clear that it was only a matter of time before Coco and Steven were recognized as a couple. Coco was delighted, but Anna now hated her deeply. With the big problem solved, Coco started to see me as an eyesore. After all, Bob still visited her periodically. She needed to find someone suitable to keep her dad occupied. And who better than me, a powerless loner? So she aimed to pull the same trick, drugging me to get what she wanted easily. After all, Anna was a proven success, but I kept rejecting her invitations. Coco wasn't in a hurry. At this moment, she focused more on winning over Steven's family, doing everything to marry him. Perhaps feeling overly confident about becoming Steven's wife, she began to distance herself from Bob. One day, while Bob was strolling, I happened to pass by and greeted him. Bob's look gave me the creeps, full of sleazy vibes. Hey there, uncle. What's Coco been up to? Haven't seen her around much. Bob's face soured at my question and he snorted. What else? She's busy with her romance. I nodded, continuing. Looks like they're close to getting hitched. I'm so happy for her. Bob remained silent, his face cold. Uncle, did you have a fight with Coco? She said she hates you, that she'll cut ties after getting married. She said some really awful stuff I can't even repeat. I don't know how she could talk like that about her father. Maybe you should talk to her more. She might have misunderstood you. You've raised her all these years, and it'd be a shame if things ended poorly. Probably she's just blowing off steam. You're her dad, you can't really cut ties, right? Bob was enraged and stormed off to confront Coco. In the midst of Coco's sweet date with Steven, Bob, storming like an enraged bull, slapped Coco hard. He cursed her as an ungrateful, heartless, shameless daughter. The sudden change took Steven completely by surprise. Bob, furious and unrestrained, grabbed Coco by the hair, hitting and cursing her horribly. Passers-by stopped to stare. Watching his girlfriend get berated, Steven felt both heartbroken and enraged. But Bob was Coco's father, so he had to hold his temper and gently try to reason with him. Bob pointed at Steven's nose and shouted, "Get lost, you dog." Steven, always held in high regard, had never been yelled at like this before. He felt both angry and humiliated, completely at a loss. Seeing her boyfriend treated this way, Coco struggled to break free from Bob's grip. Dad, what's gotten into you? Let me go. Bob tightened his grip. If you don't want him to find out about your dirty secrets, behave and come home with me. You think dating a rich second-generation kid means you can get rid of me? Dream on. Today, I'm going to teach you to listen. With that, he dragged Coco away by her hair. Too scared that Bob might say something in front of Steven, Coco didn't dare resist. As soon as they got home, Bob pushed Coco to the ground, grabbing her jaw roughly. You dare to have a boyfriend and then turn your back on me? Should I show your boyfriend how filthy you really are? so you'll learn to behave. Coco couldn't speak, only begging for mercy through her tears. Bob had no pity, still beating and cursing her, determined to make sure she understood his power and wouldn't entertain disobedient thoughts again. That night felt endless for Coco. By the time morning came, she was utterly exhausted and covered in bruises. Afraid to face Steven, she desperately tried to appease him over the phone. But for Steven, who had always been adored, the previous night was a haunting memory that wasn't easy to forget. So during this time, Coco was in deep trouble, both physically and mentally drained. She realized her father was a despicable person, with his wicked desires now completely unrestrained. To him, Coco had become nothing more than a toy. Realizing this, Coco started thinking of ways to find women for Bob, but he refused to let things go her way. To ensure Coco learned her lesson, Bob not only rejected her idea, but also devised new punishments for her every night. Eventually, Coco ended up pregnant. Bob was pleased. Since she wasn't his biological daughter, he thought they might as well keep the baby. He didn't allow Coco to have an abortion. Instead, he resurrected his old plan, have Coco marry Steven while carrying his child. Reluctantly, Coco agreed to this outrageous idea. When Steven found out Coco was pregnant, he was delighted. He threw the test results in front of his parents. Dad, Mom, I've told you many times, I'm only marrying Coco. I'm begging you, please let us be together. She's the kindest and purest person I know. Though she comes from a modest background, she has the noblest soul. I am committed to her. If you can't do it for me, at least consider your grandson. Either accept both your grandson and son, or lose them both. His words infuriated his parents, and they gave Steven a stern reprimand. But in the end, they had no choice but to compromise. They had hoped for a match with Anna, someone more fitting, and had never considered someone like Coco. But Anna had disgraced them publicly, and their business rivals still used it to mock them. They realized Steven truly loved Coco, and that his insistence was causing family turmoil. With the arrival of the baby, they knew opposing the marriage could further complicate matters if anything happened to the child. Their son might completely distance himself from them. These thoughts made Steven's parents grudgingly accept the marriage. Because Coco was already pregnant, the wedding was scheduled quickly to avoid showing too much in the wedding dress. Despite the rushed plans, Steven's wealthy family ensured a grand affair for Coco, lavish bride price, luxury cars, and a mansion that made many envious. Living her long-held dream, Coco dared not revel in it. Behind the glamorous surface, her private life was in shambles. The incestuous relationship with her father haunted her. If exposed, all the wealth and status she was about to gain would vanish, and she'd be condemned. This constant fear weighed on her, especially with Bob growing more depraved, disregarding her pregnancy, and continuing to exploit her. The night before the wedding, Bob sneaked into her room again. Afterward, he leisurely lit a cigarette, exhaling smoke while saying, "Sweet daughter, what am I going to do if I miss you after you're married?" Coco forced a bitter smile. "Dad, for the sake of the baby, please try to restrain yourself. If they sense something's wrong, our plan will fail. Didn't you say you wanted your child to inherit Steven's fortune?" Bob gave a smug smile. "You're right. But a man can't help but feel lonely sometimes." Coco's expression changed a bit, and she tentatively asked, "Dad, what do you think of Vivian?" Bob took a deep drag of his cigarette, then grinned lecherously. "That girl's got a nice body and face. Bet she's a good time." Coco seemed to see a glimmer of hope and promised confidently, "Dad, don't worry. Once I'm done with things in the next couple of days, I'll make sure she's in your bed." Watching all this on the security monitor, I smirked. "Trying to mess with me? Get ready for a surprise tomorrow." Steven and Coco's wedding was grand, with guests everywhere. Coco had waited a long time for this day, wanting the whole world to witness her happiness. So, I kindly suggested, why not invite some influencers to the wedding? They have fans and followings. Let them film the event and post it online. A glamorous wedding like this might even trend. Imagine how many people will envy you. Coco was intrigued by the idea, and quickly begged Steven to have his friends invite some influencers. Money talks, and soon enough, many influencers showed up. Coco was finally satisfied, wearing a beautiful wedding dress and making a graceful entrance. Part of the ceremony was to play videos of the bride and groom's vows to each other. Sitting in a corner, I eagerly waited to see the videos. The influencers all aimed their cameras at the big screen. They were live streaming. Coco straightened up, trying to showcase her perfect poise, ready to receive everyone's blessings. The video started, but the content was beyond everyone's expectations. The screen split, showing Coco and Bob, and Anna and Bob in some scandalous scenes. Guests were left gaping at the screen, jaws practically on the floor. Coco froze, staring in disbelief, trembling and then screaming, turn it off. Don't watch it. Turn it off now. She screamed while frantically throwing things at the big screen. Steven stared at the video, his face a mix of shock, anger, and humiliation, changing colors like a chameleon. Steven's dad rushed to have the staff turn off the video, trying to contain the scandal. But an influencer's assistant quickly blocked the equipment, trying to keep the video playing a bit longer. Several influencers didn't miss a beat, filming the big screen up close for the sake of viral content. Despite the chaotic scene, Anna, dragged to the wedding by her parents, couldn't handle the shock and ran out of the venue in tears. Her parents were equally stunned. They had come to the wedding hoping to mend ties with Steven's family, essential for business relations. Who knew their reputation would take such a hit instead? In the midst of all this chaos, the big screen began showing Bob hugging Coco, shamelessly telling her to marry Steven, carrying his child, so his son could inherit the family fortune. The guests were beyond shocked. Reality had served them a scandalous plot twist straight out of a soap opera. The bride was pregnant with her father-in-law's child, plotting to use it to steal the groom's family fortune. Outrageous and riveting. Steven's parents couldn't bear the shock and fainted. And Bob, he had snuck out at some point during the chaos. What was supposed to be a joyful event turned into a spectacular circus. They truly became the laughingstock of the city. I glanced at a stunned Steven, unsure what to do, and left the noisy hall with a smile. Bad luck for Steven, definitely. He ended up with the sneaky and ruthless Coco, Anna reincarnated me. But he wasn't innocent either. Steven played a part in my downfall in my past life. He helped Coco imprison me, looking down on me with disdain, calling me worthless. I haven't forgotten that face. Of course, I had to get my revenge. My purpose in this life was vengeance. Coco made waves, but it was all a mess. Bob became notorious, losing his job, and with friends and family cutting ties with him like he had the plague. People gathered outside his house daily to curse him out. Full of anger, Steven took back all the wedding gifts and other valuables he had given. He even beat Bob half to death, and hired people to constantly trouble him, making his life a living hell. Bob's future looked grim. And Coco, she didn't dare go home or show her face, so she came to find me. She begged me to take her in for a while, for old time's sake, so she could lay low. I smiled and said, no way. Trash like you belongs in the trash can. Hearing that, she tried to lash out, but I didn't give her the chance. I quickly shut the door, cutting off her filthy words. With nowhere to go, Coco didn't dare wander the streets. She huddled like a stray dog in a corner of our neighborhood. Seeing this, I couldn't help but snap a photo for old time's sake and posted it on social media, musing how life is like a drama. I specifically posted it for Anna. Anna is not a kind person, and Coco was the reason her reputation got ruined. I bet she was always thinking about Coco. Sure enough, two tall men showed up that evening and dragged Coco away. What good could come from falling into Anna's hands? Naturally, Coco suffered a lot. The next time I heard about her, she had already gone mad. After catching her, Anna used an eye-for-an-eye approach, letting a variety of men pester Coco day and night. Coco soon had a miscarriage, but Anna didn't care and left her to fend for herself. Coco had a strong will to live and managed to survive. But Anna wasn't done. Every time she got upset, she'd go and torment Coco, and her methods got more and more extreme. In the end, she even scarred Coco's once beautiful face with a knife. Already on the brink of madness from all the torture, Coco completely lost it when she was disfigured. Out of her mind, she somehow found the strength to break free, snatched the knife from Anna, and made a desperate counterattack. In the struggle, she stabbed Anna in the right eye and then fled. In the end, the disfigured madwoman ended up in a mental hospital, and the disgraced, blind Anna didn't dare face the world. Bad people got punished. It was a satisfying ending, not a bad result for being reborn once.